Perspectives Live. I'm Jill Sigelbaum, head of FXall at London Stock Exchange Group. And today I'm going to be speaking to Neill Penney, who's the group head of FX at London Stock Exchange Group, about the recent review to the FX Global Code.
Hi, Jill. It's good to be here today. Hi, everyone.
Hello, Neill. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Today we're going to start with, we'd love to hear you just update everyone on what exactly is the Global Code of Conduct.
Great opening question, Jill. Thank you. So the Global Code of Conduct is 55 principles for good conduct in the foreign exchange industry. And it covers everything from ethics, such as how to handle confidential information and how to handle large orders, all the way through to mechanical issues, such as risk management of algos and settlement risk. Now, there are a number of things about the Global Code of Conduct that are special. The first is it's not regulation, it's voluntary. So instead of people signing up to it because it's the law, they sign up to it because they believe it's a way forward for the foreign exchange industry. And they sign a second statement of commitment saying that they will intend to adhere to the principles. Second point is it's global. The foreign exchange industry is global. Good conduct can't be defined country by country. You think of a trading floor in a bank with so many different countries, they all have to connect together and have the same concept of good conduct. The third is it's principles based. So instead of talking quite prescriptively like regulation does about what is good and bad, the goal is to get people to think about what good conduct is and how they should conduct their jobs as traders or salespeople or quants or programmers or platform operators, such as ourselves in the foreign exchange industry. Next thing that I think is pretty unique, it was developed jointly by the public and private sectors, so central banks and industry participants, buy side, platform operators and banks, all together to define a shared picture of what good conduct in the FX industry would look like. And then perhaps what's most special about it, Jill, it's designed to be consumable by end users. So when you print out the code, it's about 50 pages, and then there's 25 pages of examples. Now, that's not a light read, but it's definitely digestible by an end user. If you think about MiFID and CEF, you print those out, it's thousands of pages. They get given to a team. The team implements a change program. And then as a practitioner in the market, you don't really think about them again. Here, it's about making you think about what good conduct is day in, day out in the job. So it's something very special. It was launched in about 2017, and 1,100 participants across the foreign exchange industry globally have signed up to adhere to its principles.
So in reviewing it, how did the industry decide what should be looked at as part of the review?
So the code is now 3 years old, Jill. It was launched in 2017. We started the review in 2020. Coronavirus delayed it a little bit, so we're probably 6 months behind where we wanted to be. But the goal was to have a 3-year review in 2020. Now, when the code was created, the creators also created something called the Global Foreign Exchange Committee. Think of it as 17 central banks around the world, of which the Bank of England, the ECB, the Federal Reserve Bank of New York are among the 17. They each contribute one public sector employee, so one member of the bank, and one private sector employee selected from the committees that they run to keep in touch with the industry. So these 34 people constitute the Global Foreign Exchange Committee, and they have on a rotating basis stewardship of the code. So they had some ideas. Then the local foreign exchange committees organized by each central bank, they had their own ideas, and very often central banks have very particular voices. You think how different the market is in different countries in the world. So they had a very distinctive voice. And then the third set of inputs was industry participants itself. So every year the GFXC runs a survey. It's open to anyone in the industry. And in fact, we as part of Refinitiv actually sent the link to all our customers last year and the year before, inviting them to participate. So the industry essentially said what was on its mind as well. All of that got added together, and out of that came a set of topics that the GFXC decided it would work together with the industry on the code review. And at several times in the code review, we've gone back out to the industry to seek a public opinion on some of the ideas in the review.
Can you share with us now what's new in the code?
Absolutely, Jill. So there's a number of things. I think what we'll do is we'll pick several of the most high profile ones, and I'll share them with you one by one. But I think there are two themes to think of for the code review. The first is the market continues to evolve. As it evolves, new practices come up, new technologies come up, and the code needs to keep pace with that or it will become outdated. And then the second is trying to get the code to be more kind of practical and directly concretely relevant to day-to-day life of the foreign exchange market. So I said it was principles-based, not prescriptive. And that's really good. It gives the code flexibility. But sometimes you want to say, this is what a disclosure should look like, or this is what information you should provide to your customers when you're asked such and such a question. So an area where both these ideas have come together, the evolution of the market and keeping pace with it, and the desire to be more concrete, is in disclosures around algos and transaction cost analysis. In both cases, these are important growth areas in the market with a lot of complexity. And one of the challenges the buy side in particular has had with disclosures is they're all different between different banks. And if you have 10 of these in front of you, it's really hard to distill through and really understand the differences and the similarities. So the idea of the template is to put standard information in standard places so that when you look at these templates, you can easily compare and contrast. And then, of course, each algo provider can provide their own additional information for things that aren't in the template. And if you think about what the two of those are, sorry, Jill, just one more point. For algos, it's very much a frequently asked questions. How do you handle principal-based liquidity? How do you handle multiple customers looking for the same liquidity at once? For TCA, it's very much a list of fields that the GFXE, along with the industry fields, are the right fields for somebody to disclose about an algorithm's performance.
Yeah, and we're really pleased as a platform provider because by standardizing these tags and setting rules around algos, it allows us to innovate and bring new information to our clients in a consistent, conformant fashion. So, we're all in favor of this.
Absolutely, thank you. So I guess the next one, last look, slightly different flavor here. The goal here was not to reopen the last look debate in the foreign exchange industry, but to take the current guidance in the first version of the code, which is in Principle 17, and expand upon it and explain it a bit more, and explain really what good conduct looks like in the context of an industry where last look is a way that people trade. So there's some guidance around why last look is used and how it benefits liquidity consumers by giving them tighter prices and deeper liquidity. And then there's guidance to liquidity providers to say really how to help customers with this quite complicated part of the market. So the full guidance for last look is not out yet. That's probably coming in August, but I'll give you a little bit of a look ahead based on what we can think of as coming. One key area of debate was around how long the so-called last look window should be. When you click on a button to trade and it goes to a last look engine, how long should the liquidity provider have before they send back a yes or no? And Principle 17 says it's for validity checks, checking credit, checking the price is still valid. And I think everyone agrees those checks can't be instantaneous. There is work to be done to make those checks. And if they're not made well, then the consequences might be wider prices and shallower liquidity than if made thoughtfully. But at the other extreme, also everybody agrees that this shouldn't be a case of the provider is able to hold the last look open and wait and see how the market evolves and then say yes or no sometime down the line. So there's a balance to be struck, and really the guidance of the code pushes towards the desire for promptness and immediacy, the idea that it is time for a final check, not for a continuation of the trading process. And just one more point on that, Jill, if we go back to templates and disclosures, that ties together because one of the items that will be in the standard disclosures for any bank to provide as part of the Global Code of Conduct is their last look hold time statistics. And at that point, it becomes very easy as a consumer of liquidity to see the range of hold times. And if there's marked difference between the liquidity providers that you have as a liquidity consumer, it empowers you to ask questions. Why is this longer than other banks I deal with? What benefits do I see as a liquidity consumer from this extra hold time and so forth? So hopefully it's shining a light on a very important part of the market.
Yeah, that's interesting. And we've added to our trade performance analytics to our clients the latency of an RFQ. So we're showing the variations of hold time now based on the different RFQs for various instruments. And I can see that, there's more request for information and transparency around this. So I think that's great.
Absolutely, Jill. One of the key ideas in the Global Code of Conduct is to create empowered and data-driven discussions between counterparties and trading. And as you said, the code pushes this forward, and then platform providers like ourselves can jump in and actually provide the data and do so consistently to all parties, which makes for much easier discussions. There's a third area of the code that I thought would be worth sharing with you today, Jill, which is around settlement risk. So a different part of the foreign exchange market, we're not in the front office anymore. And really the GFXC, looking at the changing distribution of currencies traded in the world, really wanted to reinforce the idea that payment versus payment settlement systems such as CLS are best conduct in the market. They reduce the amount of settlement risk for the whole industry. And that where there's a possible choice, participants should elect for payment versus payment solutions.
So there's significant innovation going on right now in this space. There are at least a handful of startups out there that are looking at payment versus payment solutions using distributed ledger technology. They're all looking at it from different perspectives, but I truly believe that in the next 5 years, payment versus payment will be adopted, and it's just a matter of understanding which of these new companies will win the space, and it may be different for different client sectors. We're happy to work with whatever our clients choose to use, but it's going to change the infrastructure significantly from even a credit perspective. So it's all very positive for the industry.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, Jill. If you look at the amount of transformation that's occurred in the front office of the FX industry over the past 20 years, the middle and back offices, if you like, had the misfortune to become fairly effective 20 years ago. And to your comments, there are so many people looking for solutions to push that part of the industry forward. I agree with you, a change will be coming, and it will be exciting to see where it comes from. Yeah,
absolutely.
So those were the main highlights I think are worth sharing initially, Jill. There's a lot more to do with anonymous trading venues, a guidance paper on pre-hedging. But what I thought I would do is turn the tables to you if I can. So the code came out in 2017. It was something of an experiment for the industry. It got to the point of its 3-year review, 1,100 market participants across the industry have signed. What benefits do you think your customers have experienced from the introduction of the code?
I think the biggest benefit from the code has been instilling a confidence in the industry. It's, as you pointed out, it's a global market, and it's got pockets of regulation in different regions. The global code is a way for the industry to continue to self-regulate and set up a standardized set of rules that everyone can follow. And I believe for our buy-side clients as well as the sell-side, everyone is more comfortable now that they all know what the rules are and feel a new confidence. So I think it's a great innovation for the market, and I think it should continue. We don't want it to overprescribe how the market is traded, but I think keeping that balance, as you said, is so important.
Thank you, Jill. I mean, I'll add to that. When coronavirus happened just over a year ago now, all of us suddenly went from trading on trading floors to trading in kitchens and spare bedrooms almost overnight. And the market went through a period of extreme volatility. We at Refinitiv saw 4 times the amount of market data pumped out per second than a week before, not just in foreign exchange, but in equities and fixed income everywhere. And the industry basically didn't skip a beat. And if you said 2 weeks before, people are all going to move their trading floors in a market that's highly volatile, with market data going crazy, what do you think? We'd have all taken pause. And it's really a testament to the amount of work the industry's done over the last 10 years since the global crisis on improving processes, improving technology, and most importantly, going back to your comments, improving trust between market participants. And the code was a player in that. It wasn't the only player, but it was a key part of the jigsaw in ensuring a bedrock of goodwill sat under the industry, restoring a lot of the damage that was made during the global financial crisis. I actually wrote a paper about it under the GFXC label, which is on the GFXC website. But I feel it's a real feel-good moment for the industry to come through those 6 weeks of high volatility and look back on all the work that everyone has done together over the past decade.
Definitely.
So, Jill, let me ask you. We've talked about the code generally and the benefits it's brought to customers, and we've looked at some of the highlights. And I think you've indicated they all seem things that our customers and industry participants generally will find beneficial. From your perspective, though, is there anything that is kind of missing and is time for round number two?
I think the only area where there's some work going on right now, and I think that it's definitely right for the global code to take a look at this, is standardizing reject codes. Right now, the Investment Association in the UK is already looking at this, and they're trying to build adoption around standardizing these reject codes. Once standardized, it will allow the platform providers like ourselves to give more transparency to both our buy-side clients and our sell-side clients. We feel that it will, as you said earlier, by standardizing templates and tags, this is another example of an area where there's a lack of information, and it just creates a difficult communication around trading. So I think that's the next area that the code should look at.
Yeah, I agree, Jill. And it's one of those things that people have wanted for a long time, but it's so hard for anyone to do on their own. So
Yeah.
as a market maker, if you wake up and put standard codes in, they're not standard with anybody else's. As a platform, as FXall or LSEG, we could ask for standard codes, but if different platforms aren't using them, they're not standard. So there's no advantage in anyone being the first mover. And I think the points you made are absolutely right, that the GFXC and the code is now a focal point where something becomes a priority. Things that are essentially just about everybody agreeing to do something become much, much easier. I'm looking forward to that too.
Is there anything that you'd like to add, Neill, that's next for the code that we haven't mentioned so far?
There is, Jill, thank you. And so the first one, I'm going to say my thoughts and then ask your opinion as well. And then I have a few closing thoughts. So the first is the code review at this point is essentially a set of sheets of paper, a set of empty templates. As an industry, we have to adopt the code review, and all the good things that we spoke about have to become part of practice instead of recommendations. So that means those templates have to be filled in, they have to be checked by legal and compliance, and they have to be made available to customers. As a customer and consumer of the disclosure, you have to assimilate all this extra information. And then hopefully go back and have the richer discussion with your counterparties that the templates are intended to create. Platforms such as ourselves will have to make changes for anonymous tagging rules. And overall, the GFXC thinks there's probably about a year's worth of work for the industry, really to take the code review from a completed review to updated industry practice. And that's not a year of solid work, but it's a year of elapsed time. So I think we should be clear that the next year is about making the code reviews stick, and that's the first port of call. So if I just turn the question back to you, Jill, on that, when you look at the work to be done, what things do you see FXall bringing to market in the next year or so, coming out of the code review and the discussions we've had?
Well, as I said, I think the standardizing tags is huge for a platform provider because it allows us now to use machine learning on the standardization of this information and give our buy-side clients more intelligence as they're trading. So I think the first step is getting that data in a standardized format, and it allows us then to innovate and bring more transparency to the market in a more sophisticated technological fashion. I also, as I pointed out already, I think real-time settlement is a huge area of innovation for the market. Will I wouldn't say eliminate, but mitigate settlement risk, particularly in the spot market. And we should embrace new technology in order to get there. So I think these are the two hot areas that will allow platform providers like ourselves to really innovate and take the electronic trading to the next level.
Yeah, and take the ideas of the code review and put them into practice.
Absolutely.
And then at the end of that, of course, we will re-sign our statement of commitment, refreshing it as we're now adhering to the next revision of the code. So I think if we look further forward, Jill, the next piece, and there's a role to play for all of us in the industry on this, is greater buy-side adoption of the code. So I said earlier, and we've discussed today, there are 1,100 market participants who have signed, which is success wildly, I think, beyond the dreams of the code creators. But it is still very much a sell-side adherence code with some buy-side signing, but by no means even share. So what I would say to everybody on the buy side is the focus of the code review was around things that the buy side have clearly indicated they wanted to see strengthened in the code, explained better in the code. And some of the practices and frustrations they have in the market are addressed by the code review as well. So templates are extra work by liquidity providers to ensure easier adoption by liquidity consumers. We looked at last look, pre-hedging, anonymous tagging makes the market easier to navigate. So I would say there's a lot in this revision of the code, which is really intended to take legitimate criticisms and concerns from people who haven't signed and hopefully bring them over the line. So I'd say if you're curious, please reach out to anyone on the GFXC or any one of your industry colleagues who's adhering to the code and aim to learn more about what's come up in the code review and how it's changed.
Thank you, Neill. Thanks so much for joining us today. It was really great to speak to you and to hear your message to everyone.
Perfect. Thank you, Jill.
If you enjoyed today's episode and would like to learn more about Refinitive's FXall platform, you can request more details by following the link in the comments or scanning the QR code on screen now. I'm Jill Sigelbaum. Thank you for watching.